Live from the Institute of Politics at Harvard University's John F. Kennedy School of Government, the battle for the White House. Here's Chris Matthews.
For the next hour, he's in his first term in the United States Senate. Now he's running for president. My special guest tonight, Senator John Edwards of North Carolina. Well, here we are in the night of the American League Championship. Who are you for?
Red Sox.
Right choice. Let me ask.
All the questions going to be that easy?
No. This is being shown in New York, Senator. Okay. Let me. You just don't like the word Yankee, do you? Being from North Carolina. Okay. We're going to go. We've got to get serious, unfortunately. You're running for President of the United States.
Yes, sir.
And you're in your first term as United States Senator from North Carolina. Let me ask you about the war. And because I know these are all students, and in fact, a lot of guys the age of these students are fighting over there, and they're cleaning up over there, and they're doing the occupation. Were we right to go to this war alone, basically without the Europeans behind us? Was that something we had to do?
I think that we were right to go. I think we were right to go to the United Nations. I think we couldn't let those who could veto in the Security Council hold us hostage. And I think Saddam Hussein being gone is good. Good for the American people, good for the security of that region of the world, and good for the Iraqi people.
But do you think the decision which was made by the president, which was basically when he saw the French weren't with us and the Germans and the Russians weren't with us, was he right to say, we're going anyway?
I stand behind my support of that, yes.
You believe in that?
Yes.
Let me ask you about, since you did support the resolution and you did support that ultimate decision to go into combat and to take over that government and occupy that country, do you think that you, as a United States Senator, got the straight story from the Bush administration on this war, on the need for the war? Did you get the straight story?
Well, the first thing I should say is I take responsibility for my vote, period. And I did what I did based upon a belief, Chris, that Saddam Hussein's potential for getting nuclear capability was what created the threat. That was always the focus of my concern, still is the focus of my concern. So, did I get misled? No, I didn't get misled.
Did you get an honest reading on the intelligence?
But now we're getting to the second part of your question. I think we have to get to the bottom of this. I think there's clear inconsistency between what's been found in Iraq and what we were told. And as you know, I serve on the Senate Intelligence Committee. So it wasn't just the Bush administration. I sat in meeting after meeting after meeting where we were told about the presence of weapons of mass destruction. There is clearly a disconnect between what we were told and what, in fact, we found there.
If you knew last October when you had to cast an A or nay vote for this war that we would be unable to find the weapons of mass destruction after all these months there, would you still have supported the war?
It wouldn't change my view. As I said before, I think that the threat here was a unique threat. It was Saddam Hussein, the potential for Saddam getting nuclear weapons, given his history and the fact that he started a war before.
Do you feel now that you have evidence in your hands that he was on the verge of getting nuclear weapons?
No, I wouldn't go that far. That's a
What
jump.
would you say?
What I would say is there's a decade-long pattern of an effort to get nuclear capability. From the former Soviet Union, trying to get access to scientists.
What about Africa?
Trying to get... No, I don't think so. At least not from the evidence we've seen.
Were you misled by the president in his State of the Union address on the argument that Saddam Hussein was trying to get uranium from Niger?
The honest answer to that is no. I did not put a lot of stock in that.
But you didn't believe, but you were misled.
I did not. I was not misled because I didn't put a lot of stock in it to begin with. As I said before, I think what happened here is for over a decade, there is strong, powerful evidence, which I still believe is true, that Saddam Hussein had been trying to get nuclear capability, either from North Korea, from the former Soviet Union, getting access to scientists, trying to get access to raw fissile material. I don't have any question about.
The United States has had a long history of non-intervention, of basically taking the view, don't tread on me, and if you don't, we'll leave you alone. We broke with that tradition for Iraq. What is your standard for breaking with tradition of non-intervention?
When somebody like Saddam Hussein presents a direct threat to the security of the American people, and in this case, the security of a region of the world that I think is critical.
Direct threat to us, what was it? Just to get that down. What is it, knowing everything you know now, what was the direct threat this guy posed to us here in America?
But you didn't let me finish. There were two pieces to that. I said both a direct threat to us and a direct threat to a region of the world that is incredibly dangerous. And I think that with Saddam Hussein had gotten nuclear capability, that would have changed the dynamic in that part of the world entirely. And as a result, we've created a threat to the American people. So that's what I think the threat is.
Do you think he ever posed a direct threat?
But can I say something? You sort of implicit in that question was the assumption that I believe that the Bush policy on preemptive strike is correct. I don't. I don't think we need a new doctrine. I think we can always act to protect the safety and security of the American people. And I have said repeatedly that President Bush's approach to foreign policy in general is extraordinarily bad, dangerous for the American people. He doesn't work with others. He doesn't build coalitions. We were promised.
Well, wait, let me get that.
Let me finish. We were promised a coalition on the ground right now. And we were promised a plan for what would occur at this point in this campaign in Iraq. Well, neither of those things had occurred. And as a result, we're seeing what's happening to our young men and women.
Okay. I just want to get one thing straight so that we know how you would have been different as president if you'd been in office for the last 4 years as president. Would you have gone to Afghanistan?
I would.
Would you have gone to Iraq?
I would have gone to Iraq. I don't think I would have approached it the way this president did. I think what happened, if you remember back historically, remember I had an up or down vote. I stand behind it. Don't misunderstand me.
Right.
I stand behind it. But if I were president of the United States, instead of going to the United Nations as an afterthought, which is how this president did it, if I'd been president of the United States, I would have been building the case over a long period of time, bringing an international pressure on Saddam Hussein. I think the result of the way he built up to this war was it made it virtually impossible to get United Nations support.
Miss, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Christina. My question is in regards to the report of the uniform letter that was sent from many American soldiers in Iraq, and I think published in 11 newspapers. And my question is, do you think that this constitutes proliferation of propaganda by the military or the government? And if so, do you think there should be consequences for this?
What was your name again?
Christina.
Christina, what was, you have to tell me about the letter. I'm not sure I know about it.
It was a uniform letter that apparently the soldiers were given and asked if they agreed with, and if so, they signed it. And then they were also asked the names of their local newspapers, and it was sent back, and the same exact letter was published, signed by different soldiers in, I think, 11 newspapers, saying it was from these soldiers, that they'd written it voluntarily.
Honestly, it's the first time I've heard about it. What I hear from parents of troops that are there is they're worried about how long they've been there. They're worried about what the plan is for when we're going to get others there and when their sons and daughters are going to be able to come home. And they want to know why American taxpayers are shouldering this burden by themselves. Those are the kind of questions I hear, not just in general. I hear those questions directly from the parents of young men and women who are over there right now. This letter is something that's new to me.
Next.
Good evening. My name is Bridger McGaw. I'm a student at the Kennedy School of Government. And my question, Senator, is the President's $87 billion supplemental bill is coming up on the floor this week.
Yes.
And I'm wondering how you're going to vote for it. And if you're going to vote against it, do you plan on standing with your colleagues like Senator Kennedy and Senator Byrd in fighting it?
Well, here's my belief about the $87 billion. First of all, I mentioned this earlier in answer to Chris's question. We were promised a plan. There is no plan. We were promised a coalition. There is no coalition. The reason there's no coalition is because the president, while he uses the right words, has been completely unwilling to relinquish any control. We will not get troops and money from our friends and allies unless we actually give them some responsibility and a seat at the table. And it is not the right thing to do for our troops, which I was asked about just a few minutes ago, to just continue to give this president a blank check. So I think we have questions we need answers to. First, is there a plan? If so, what is it? Second, what are we going to do to actually get our allies there and make sure that they're going to participate and relieve the burden on our troops and on the American taxpayer? And third, are we sure that this money is not, this taxpayer money is not going to end up in the pockets of Bush's friends. I mean, those are all very serious questions. We've been asking them this week, and I don't know whether we'll get to the vote this week or next week, but I think those are questions we have to have the answers to.
Are you surprised, Senator, we've lost 100 men over there since the president declared victory on the aircraft carrier? That we've lost 1,000 casualties, and a lot of them are tremendously wounded men.
I am surprised. I'm surprised for multiple reasons. One is, I mentioned earlier, that if we had friends and allies there, it would change us from an American occupation to an international effort, completely change the dynamic on the ground. The second thing that worries me is we have young men and women who are not trained to provide security, providing security. If we really want to provide security in Iraq, we're ultimately going to need an Iraqi security force because they can communicate better, because they'll be more trusted by their own people. That's another step that needs to be taken by this administration.
Beforehand, before we went in, I asked you when we had the last town meeting back at NCCU down in North Carolina,
yes.
I asked you if you thought we'd be welcomed as liberators, and you said yes. Do you still feel that's the case, that we've been welcomed as liberators in Iraq?
No, I don't. I think.
Well, what happened that made your prediction wrong?
That the president didn't do what I said he should have done back then, which was have others involved in this so that we're not doing this by ourselves. The way the Iraqi people are responding, or at least some of the Iraqi people are responding, the most militant members of the Iraqi people, is this just looks like an American occupation. The way to change the dynamic on the ground, I think, is to do two things. For this to be an international effort, not just an American effort. And second, the security force needs to not be American troops trying to provide security. The security force should be an Iraqi security force.
But won't the Iraqi people be sophisticated enough to know that we're calling the shots no matter who the gendarmes are, no matter who the police are?
They know it.
And don't they know we have, in fact, occupied their country? It isn't a bad PR situation. We have occupied their country.
The answer is, of course, they'll
Wouldn't
know
you
that.
hate it if somebody occupied your country?
Yeah, only if, in fact, it was only America, it was not an international force,
Right.
and more importantly, we weren't seriously moving toward the Iraqi people governing themselves. That's the next step in this process. Why in the world can we not turn over the establishment of this transitional government to the United Nations? I think the Iraqi people will respond very differently to that than what we're seeing right
You're
now.
for that right now. Do it.
I am for
Turn
it.
it over.
I am for it.
Great. Thank you very much.
Not turning over the country, turning over setting up the transitional government to the United Nations. That's got to be
But we still call the shots on the ground.
What? No.
Militarily.
We should. This is what I've been saying the entire time.
Right.
If we are going to be successful in Iraq, the test is not now. It's 5-6 years from now. Are we still there? Are we there by ourselves?
Right.
In fact, are the Iraqi people moving toward a democracy? I mean, those are the tests. The test is not what's happening right now.
Okay, well, we're not going to get any more popular the longer we stay. Anyway, thank you. More with Senator John Edwards of North Carolina when we come back.
This president, who gives free rein to his friends at the expense of the country, will not get a free ride come November of 2004.
Coming up, Senator John Edwards on the inside deals on the rebuilding of Iraq. We're coming back with Hardball's Battle for the White House. see, we're at a very, very elite institution. We're at the Institute of Politics at the John F. Kennedy School of Government up at Harvard University. We're going to be coming here every Monday night with the new candidates. Next week it's going to be John Kerry, the hometown boy from Massachusetts, and he's going to have he knows the terrain better, perhaps, but he may lose a home game. So we're going to go. Let's take a look right now at an ad that you, Senator, have been running in the primary and caucus states. It's a big ad.
$87 billion for Iraq with no plan in sight. Billion-dollar giveaways for the president's oil industry friends like Halliburton. And no help from the allies he shut out. Is this our America? Well, I will not give this president a blank check. We should stop the inside deals and work with our allies in Iraq.
Well, tell us about the inside deal, Senator.
Well, we've seen Halliburton get no-bid contracts for billions of dollars. We have seen, most recently, Joe Albaugh, who's the president's friend and campaign manager in his presidential campaign, set up a lobbying shop in Washington for the purpose of procuring contracts in Iraq. It's not surprising. The American people are very concerned about this.
What's this say about George Bush, the president?
It says that he's spending more energy looking out for his friends than he is looking out for the American people and the taxpayers.
Well, nail that down, Senator. What do you think he's done? How did he direct these contracts to his friends?
Well,
How did he do it?
The President of the United States, Chris, knows that there are contracts being bid in Iraq. The President of the United States knows that Dick Cheney's firm, Halliburton, is in the process of getting billions of dollars in those contracts. Yeah. And if he didn't know, he should have known. And the President of the United States can do something about it. They can always do something about it. They didn't do anything about it until their hand got called and it became public. And finally, for the first time, the President has rolled over and been willing to do something about it.
What's in it for Cheney? That Halliburton got this kind, yeah, well, directly, indirectly. What benefit does he get from the fact that Halliburton? Because I've never seen an ad before where a candidate for president has nailed one corporation, said this corporation got this contract. I just want to know why you picked Halliburton.
Because of their connection to the administration. They have a direct connection to the administration. Now, do I know that there's a direct financial benefit to the vice president? Of course not. I don't know that. The vice president I know gets hundreds of thousands of dollars each year from Halliburton. From what I understand about it, it's a fixed amount, so I don't think it's related to the profitability of Halliburton. But we also know that he ran the company for a long period of time. He has friends there, and he knows a lot of people there.
Is this unethical?
For Halliburton to get no bid contracts?
No, for the vice president to have his former firm get this big contract. Is it unethical?
It's unethical for this firm to get this contract no bid. I don't think you can exclude anybody from the bidding process, as long as it's competitive and we keep costs down for taxpayers, but that's not what happened.
Is this graft? Are we talking about graft here? Where friends get benefits from government power, but their friends are in office, they get benefits because they get the business deals. That's called graft.
I don't know what word you would use. What I believe is that Halliburton got billions of dollars in benefit and they shouldn't have gotten it.
Okay. Question.
My name is Nathan Rosenberg. I'm a junior at the college, rather. But aren't Halliburton and Bechtel the two firms that are most experienced in the region? Aren't they the best ones to be doing the job? I mean, isn't it just a coincidence that Dick Cheney used to be the CEO? I mean, if it was any other president, wouldn't the bureaucrats say, go with Halliburton?
That would be a perfectly logical argument had the contracts, billions of dollars in taxpayer money, been bid competitively. Had, in fact, many firms competed, many firms had a chance to get the contracts, then you could certainly argue, well, in fact, Halliburton is the best one to get the job. But that's not what happened. Instead, they got billions of dollars of contracts with no bid, no competition. That's taxpayer money going to Halliburton, the vice president's former firm, without any competition. I mean, there's no way to have any confidence in this process.
Do you think that Dick Cheney had any hand in letting this contract to Halliburton? Any hand in it?
I have no idea.
Do you think he might have?
I literally have no idea. I mean, I don't have any evidence of it. He clearly is connected to Halliburton.
So he's innocent of this deal. It's not his fault.
Listen,
You're saying it's not his fault, is what I'm asking. It's not Dick Cheney's fault that this contract went to Halliburton. You saying that?
I think it's the president and vice president's fault that they let this happen in a no-bid situation. Absolutely. Do I know that the vice president arranged for Halliburton? I don't know that. I don't have any evidence.
Let's come back. More from Senator John Edwards and Halliburton when we come back. also with the Institute of Politics. Let's go right now to a professor. Professor Steve Wall is the academic dean of the Kennedy School here at Harvard. Your question, sir.
Senator Edwards, you have indicated your support, you still support the war, and many Democrats are now trying to hold the president accountable. My question to you is twofold. Why didn't you ask to see what the president's plans for the post-war reconstruction were before, and insist on good answers to those questions before you voted in favor of the resolution? Given that you didn't ask those questions, why should we have confidence in your judgment when facing questions of war and peace in the future? Can't we hold you just as accountable as the Democrats would now like to hold the president?
I will tell you, Dean, exactly what I said back then and what I said before I voted on the resolution. First of all, it is not the Congress and the Senate of the United States that decides whether or not we're going to go into a situation like this. We give authority, but the president conducts the war, not us. And I said before this began that it was critical, long before the resolution even came to the Senate, that it was critical, number one, that the president have a plan, and number two, that he have a plan to bring our friends and allies into this process so that we wouldn't be doing it alone. Well, he's done neither of those things. And when I say today that the President of the United States has questions that he has not answered for the American people, for example, what is the plan? I don't mean the plan for the past 3 months. I'm talking about the plan going forward. And second, what are his ideas about how to have not just rhetoric, but a serious effort to bring our friends and allies in the United Nations into this process? We're never going to get them there unless he's willing to relinquish some control. Up until now, he's been completely unwilling to do that. And it is so critical to this effort being successful over the long term. And so the answer to your question is, I intend to hold this president accountable for the way he's conducting the situation in Iraq right now. I think any of us can do that. And it's exactly what I said a year ago. This is not new. What I'm saying tonight is not new. I said it before the resolution ever came to the Senate.
You said it was the president's call whether they go to war. That's not a right reading of the Constitution. Congress can stop them if you guys wanted to.
What I meant to say was it is the president's job to conduct the war.
Right.
That's exactly what it is.
Thank you. We'll be right back with more with Senator John Edwards. Let's talk about the economy.
George Bush values, honors, and respects one thing, and one thing alone, and you know what it is? Money and wealth.
Hello, I'm Christy Muzamechi. At half past the hour, here are your headlines. A U.S. officer in Iraq says there's evidence Saddam Hussein has been in Tikrit lately and may still be in his hometown, exerting influence on resistance fighters who have been killing American soldiers. 3 U.S. soldiers were killed in the past 24 hours in 3 separate attacks, including one in Tikrit. NBC News has learned the U.S. is offering another revised version of a UN Security Council resolution on Iraq. This one responds to UN demands for a clearer path to autonomy for Iraqis by proposing to give the U.S.-appointed Iraqi Governing Council until December 15th to draw up plans for elections and a new constitution. A vote could come by the end of the week. And after months of campaigning, Ohio Congressman Dennis Kucinich officially declared he is a candidate for the Democratic presidential nomination. The vocal opponent of the war in Iraq says if elected, he'd establish a cabinet-level Department of Peace. Back to Hardball.
I believe in an America where the family you're born into and the color of your skin should never control your destiny. I still believe in an America where the son of a mill worker could beat the son of a president for the White House.
Senator, you are really tough on President Bush. And let me just read you a quote you said about him. He wants to make sure that those who have wealth keep it. He wants to make sure they have a closed club where the doors are closed and the barriers are up and nobody gets in. Because of the way I grew up, I have a different view of the world. What I value is not wealth, but hard work. Do you really mean that about President Bush? That he's trying to slam that door shut?
Yes, sir, I mean it.
How's he doing? How's he closing the door? I can see where he wants to help the rich, but you're saying he's screwing poor people.
I think it's bigger than that. And this is a place where, if you look at the Democratic presidential candidates, all of them are against his tax cuts for the rich. I think there's something much more radical going on here. I think the president is shifting the tax burden in this country from wealth and the wealthy to work and the middle class. What I mean is he wants to eliminate the capital gains tax, the dividends tax, a taxation of billion-dollar estates, all taxes either on wealth or passive unearned income from wealth. That tax burden gets shifted straight to working people. That's exactly it's the word. Number one, it's wrong for 2 reasons. First, because it violates the values and principles we believe in. I want the president to explain to the American people why some multimillionaire sitting by a swimming pool looking at his financial statement to see how much he made last month is paying a lower tax rate than a firefighter or a school teacher. That's exactly what he's doing. It's also wrong for a second reason, which is it puts the heavier burden on the middle class. In order for this economy to really grow, we should be empowering the middle class, not dragging them down. The economy has grown historically over the last 50 years, right after World War II, when the middle class expanded, right in the second half of the Clinton administration. We should be empowering the middle class, not putting an additional burden on it.
You talk a lot about... That's a very powerful argument. It's a very powerful indictment. Do you think George Bush is a bad guy?
I think that his values are not the values of most Americans. What do you mean? I think he's a bad guy.
Yeah, bad guy. I mean, you make him sound like Robin Hood in reverse. A guy who takes from the poor and gives to the rich. Is he that bad?
That's exactly what he's doing. That's absolutely what he's doing.
Well, then he's a bad guy.
Well, is he evil in his heart? Is that what you're asking?
I'm trying to find out what his motive is. I don't think it's laughing matter. You accuse the guy of the most venomous, villainous activity, and then you say, but he's a swell guy? I mean, what is it?
Did you hear me say he was a swell guy?
Well, go the other way. Go the other way.
No, I think that because of where he comes from and how he got to where he is, he doesn't connect with the people that we're talking about. He does not understand their lives. He is not about empowering those people. In fact, what he's doing, he believes, I believe completely wrongly, that if he puts more money in the pockets of the wealthy, that they will invest, that they will be out there spending it, and somehow the whole country's going to do better. He's wrong about that, Chris.
But you say the way where he came from, you mean because he grew up rich as a Bush, right?
That's one of the things.
Well, what about guys like Kerry's coming here next week? He grew up rich. What about people like Howard Dean? He grew up rich.
I'll tell you what about them. They're not doing what George Bush is doing. Both of those guys, the 2 you just mentioned, Howard Dean and John Kerry, they actually want to empower working class families. That's not what George Bush is doing. Whatever lessons they learned growing up, And they grew up, both of them grew
Right.
up very differently than I grew up. But whatever lessons they learned, it at least led them to the right place. That's not where George
But a
Bush
lot
is.
of guys grew up poor, like people in this country. Guys like was Tom DeLay, for example, right? He's an exterminator before he came to Congress. He's a right winger. So just because you were born poor doesn't make you a liberal, does it?
No, of course not. No, what it made, the question is, what did you learn from all your life experiences? What I have learned from my life experiences is that people who work hard and are responsible, no matter what their work is,
Right.
deserve an opportunity to do what they're capable of doing. They are the driving force in this economy, not people at the top who are investing. It's people, the middle class, working people. Those are the people we need to empower. That's the life lesson I have learned, and it's personal for me, Chris.
I understand.
These are the people that I've known all my life.
But there's an implicit shot here against guys like Dean and Kerry and people like Franklin Roosevelt and John F. Kennedy. They were swells growing up. They turned out to be pretty good
What do you mean an
presidents.
implicit shot? No, my shot is at a president of the United States who grew up that way and is making it harder and harder every day for working people to come out of it.
First question up top.
Hi, my name is Daniel Simon. I'm a student at the Harvard Business School. I was wondering, given that you believe as I do that George W. Bush is taking from the poor and giving to the rich, which of his tax cuts would you repeal and which working class programs would you fund with that money?
What I would do is stop Bush's tax cuts for those who earn over $200,000 a year, number one. I would actually raise the capital gains rate, which is now at 15%, to 25% for those who earn over $300,000 a year. I would not eliminate the estate tax, not for very large estates. And I would close a group of corporate tax loopholes. And now that's what I would stop. I would, in addition to what we already have for working middle-class families, have a tax credit that allows people to make the down payment on their first home, have a savings match that allows families to save up to $1,000 a year and have that match, reduce the capital gains rate for middle-class working families, because what we want in this country is to create wealth. But we want to create wealth for those in the middle class and poorer families who have no wealth. What this president is doing is creating more and more wealth for people at the top, which means the disparity, the wealth disparity in America is growing wider and wider. It's why 3 million more Americans are living in poverty. It's why 3 million more people don't have a job. It's why 9 million Americans aren't able to work today. This is what this president is taking us to, and what he's doing is making it harder and harder for people like the family that I grew up in to be able to do better. I got to this place in my life because I grew up in the great light of a country that gave me this chance. This chance should be available to every American.
Next question.
Senator Edwards, Andy Frank from here. My question is, what is it specifically about being from a working class background that makes you uniquely qualified to run for president?
Now, I didn't pay him to ask that question. I want you to know.
He said uniquely.
Here's what I think. I don't think your biography in the abstract is important, except for this reason. When I propose the various things, college for everyone proposal, what I want to do in our public schools, making sure that every child in America is covered by health insurance and the most vulnerable adults are covered, all these things that I talk about are not abstract and academic for me. When the fight comes, I will fight my heart out for them because I have grown up with it. I have seen these problems up close. I know from my own family how big a deal it is to be able to buy your first home. How big a deal it is to actually be able to save and be able to invest. How important it is that your school, I wouldn't be where I am today without a great public school education. Every child in America should get exactly the same quality of education, no matter where they live, what the color of their skin. This is the kind of America that we believe in. When I say George Bush's values are not in line with the values of the American people, that's exactly what I'm talking about.
But there's no distinction between you and the other Democrats. You won't use class against these wealthier, more privileged people in your party, what you're running against. In other words...
You mean am I going to beat them up because they grew up rich?
No, if you get a guy... No, it's a John Kerry was in the same skull and bones as George W. Bush.
No, there is a difference, Chris. I'll be very clear about this. There is a difference. If you grew up the way I did, it's very, very personal for you. You will fight your heart out for it. You have lived it. Now, does that mean that John Kerry or Howard Dean, who you mentioned earlier, that their heart's not in the right place? I don't believe that. But I think they have not lived with it the way I have. And as a result, I think it affects how they will go about this problem.
So you'll be more passionate than they are?
I'm going to get it done.
And they're not?
Well, I'll let you make your own judgment.
Okay. I'm just trying to get you in a fighting spirit. Here we go. Okay, let's
Listen,
go.
I'm in a fighting spirit.
Okay, next question.
Thanks, sir. My name is Guillermo Coronado. I'm a junior here at the college. And given your passion for regular people and your belief that your background as a regular person and a regular American helps you fight for those people, how do you feel about a Senate made up of 40 millionaires, yourself among them? And what would Edwards' presidency do to help more regular people seek careers in politics and public service without feeling like they have to make millions first?
I think that's a very fair question. Because here's the truth. To run for the United States Senate, you shouldn't have to have come from where I came and be where I am today. But absent that, I would have no chance of being in the United States Senate. Here's the way we do it. We need to have, the McCain-Feingold was good. I worked for it. It was a good move in the right direction on campaign finance reform. It was not enough. We need to really get money out of politics so that elections are decided solely on the basis of merit, which means, in my judgment, public financing of political campaigns combined with free broadcast time.
We're going to come back and ask Senator Edwards what he thinks about Arnold Schwarzenegger and his victory in California when we return with the Hardball Battle for the White House.
In the 2000 presidential race, George W. Bush won Senator John Edwards' home state of North Carolina by nearly 400,000 votes. We're coming back with more from Senator Edwards on Hardball's Battle for the White House.
We're back. I was just out in California for 5 weeks, like most of the press corps, and we're going to, this is a cluster bus. We're going to ask him about Arnold Schwarzenegger when we come back. When we come back, I'm going to ask Senator Edwards what he thinks of Arnold Schwarzenegger's big victory in California. Coming back with more of the college tour. We're back at Harvard. What do you think happened in California last week with Schwarzenegger winning that big victory out there? What do you make of it?
Driven by voter anger about the economy out there, I think, primarily.
Well, what do you think? He beat the incumbent governor's number from last time. He beat the no vote on recall. He beat the Democrats, killed him. People say if the Democratic legislature had been, the entire legislature had been on the ballot, they would have lost.
I think people are upset about the economy and upset about what's happening, and they wanted something new.
Do you think he'll be a good governor?
I have real serious questions about that.
Why? What is your question about Schwarzenegger?
Well, I mean, first of all, he has no experience governing. Second, he's not. He's facing an economic problem that is colossal,
Right.
and that obviously others have been working very hard on over a long period of time. So I think we just have to see. We have to see what ideas, and also I honestly, I think one of the concerns that I have is at least during the course of his campaign, he didn't seem to have many specific ideas about what he wanted to do there.
So you're not too hopeful?
Say again?
You're not too hopeful?
Hopeful. I can understand your word. I thought it was
my
helpful.
accent.
Helpful.
You're not too hopeful?
Well, I'm not. No, I'm not hopeful. But I'm hopeful for California. But I'm really concerned about Schwarzenegger's ability to govern. We'll see.
Okay, let's go to question. Professor Elaine Kmark used to be chief domestic policy advisor. Well, you might as well have been foreign policy for all the good it did for the Al Gore campaign for the Al Gore campaign last time, and she's a friend of mine. Elaine.
Thanks, Chris, as always. Senator Edwards, in February, you introduced legislation in the Senate to create a Homeland Intelligence Agency.
Yes.
Since then, I have heard you be very critical of Attorney General Ashcroft, be a staunch defender of American civil liberties. How do you reconcile the creation of a domestic spy agency, which we have never had in the United States? How do you reconcile that with your defense of civil liberties and your critiques of John Ashcroft?
Good question. Here's what I want to do. First, we have an FBI that gives us the worst of both worlds now. They're ineffective in fighting terrorism here at home. We saw all the problems before September the 11th and what we've learned since that time. Combined with an Attorney General of the United States that every day is taking away more and more of our civil liberties, more and more of our freedom, more and more of our constitutional rights. So now we've got the worst of both worlds. I think what we should do is take responsibility for fighting terrorism here at home away from the FBI, create a separate agency, and then to address the very concern you're raising, which I share deeply. I think this is an enormous issue, our freedom and our liberty. I would set up a watchdog Office of Civil Rights and Civil Liberties at exactly the same time, not just to oversee this agency, but to oversee the government at large, to make sure that we're not in this process of protecting ourselves and fighting this war on terrorism, giving up the very things that we're supposed to be fighting for. And that means also putting some structural safeguards in place so that, in fact, we don't have a situation where the Attorney General of the United States could go into libraries and bookstores and see what books are being bought and checked out. This is not the America you and I grew up in, and it is certainly not the America we believe in.
Next question.
Senator Edwards, your decision not to run for Senate in North Carolina makes it almost impossible for Democrats to re-win the Senate. How do you justify this to party loyalists?
I think exactly the opposite. I have a simple answer for anybody who wants to know why I'm not running for re-election in the United States Senate. And for those who are watching the show who have a more normal life and don't follow this day to day, my Senate seat is up at exactly the same time as the presidential election. And I had to make a decision. First of all, I don't believe this is about me. I believe it's about the American people. Second, there's no way to put mind, body, and soul into an election for the presidency of the United States hanging on to the side of the swimming pool. You know what? If I'm actually going to do everything in my power to win the nomination, I had to let go and plunge and give it everything I've got, which is exactly what I've been doing. And the third and simplest answer, we want to hold the Senate seat in North Carolina. We want to hold these Senate seats in difficult states around the country. You put John Edwards at the top of the ticket, we will hold those Senate seats. I guarantee you. That's the best way to make sure we have those seats.
Senator, now that you've left hold of the side of the swimming pool, you burnt your ships. I love burning your ships is better. I like it. Are you available for the vice presidential nomination if you don't win the big one?
No.
You won't take it?
I am in this to be president of the United States.
But you'll be out of work. Why wouldn't you take it?
Actually, I won't be out of work.
Look at Cheney.
It shows you've been doing this too long. Not having a political office does not mean you're out of work. There are a lot of people around this country who are not.
Let me ask you some questions. I need some change-up. We're going to have a change-up picture in Fenway tonight, so how about some change-up questions here?
Sure.
What's your favorite movie? All time, favorite movie. Don't say Sound of Music.
No, I'm not.
Although I liked it. Oh, come on, it's the easiest question of the night.
Yeah. One second. It's been 3 years since
Think of all the constituency groups in the Democratic Party. Think how you could pander to them all right now. Which will be the high pander here? Which will it be? Favorite movie of all time, Senator John Edwards. Hotline tomorrow. It'll be in Hotline.
I'm thinking. Let me think. Ask me another one.
You're like Jack Benny. Your money of your life. I'm thinking.
No, I'm just trying to come up with one.
Come on, your favorite movie. The buck stops here. You're at the presidency. Somebody's asked you, you're president, and they ask you what your favorite movie is. You got to ask it. You're going to look to Elizabeth. You're looking to Elizabeth. You're looking for you. That's your lifeline. She's your lifeline.
I'm trying to think of the name. It's the movie where they're in prison. And
Shawshank Redemption.
Yes, Shawshank.
Oh. All right, okay. All right. So you're as...
Can you believe it?
Are you as left-wing as Ted Robbins? No, I'm just kidding. No. Okay, favorite book? Favorite novel?
I just finished The Da Vinci Code. I thought it was very good.
Everybody likes that.
Yeah.
I do. Very good for the women out there. Great for women's rights. I mean, my wife loves it. Okay, favorite philosopher? This was a question put to the president.
I don't have a favorite philosopher. I've been asked this before. I don't have one, is the honest answer. That's not unhealthy.
Are you not a philosophical kind of person?
Well, I think I am in the abstract, but I don't have a favorite philosopher.
God, that's an honest answer. We'll be right back with more honest answers from John Edwards. Harvard, which is, of course, part of metropolitan Boston. And back in the last presidential election, a Boston TV reporter, Andy Hiller, asked the presidential candidate, George W. Bush, if he could name the 4 world leaders of 4 hotspots around the world. They were Chechnya, Taiwan, Pakistan, India. Do you think that was a fair set of questions to put to a guy running for president, to name those?
No.
Do you think it'd be a fair question to put to you right now?
No, absolutely not.
So you don't want to go to that? Well, that was the option you have. I have the answers here if you wanted to try, but since you don't want to try, we'll move on. If you sure? You don't want to answer these questions? I know you know at least one of them. You know who's had a...
No, let's don't go there.
Okay. Let's go to the bigger question. You're president of the United States right now, and you had a big leak. And the leak involved the security of a CIA agent. And somebody leaked to the press the name of that agent, exposing their cover and perhaps endangering their career, if not their life. What would you do if you were president right now to deal with that problem?
I would immediately find out who was responsible. I would fire them and turn them over to law enforcement.
How would you find that out?
I would put somebody in charge of the investigation within the White House, and I would want an answer. I mean, within 48 hours, I would want an answer.
You'd fire them?
I absolutely would fire them.
Okay, let's go right now. Next question up here.
Senator Edwards, my name's Luisa Lara, and I'm a freshman at the college. Why did you skip the vote on the ban of partial birth abortion? And more importantly, what is your stance on that issue?
My stance on the issue, I missed the vote along with the other presidential candidates because we were campaigning. My stance on the issue, though, is very well established because I've voted on it before in the United States Senate. I voted, and I know this is not a particularly popular position, but I voted against the ban because it did not have an exception for the health of the mother. I do not support a ban on late-term abortions that does not have an exception for the health of the mother.
Senator, my name's Deborah Mao. I'm a junior at the college. I know you said earlier that you're in this to win, so I'm wondering, who do you think is your toughest opponent in the Democratic primary?
Last question. But the best one.
I think but I don't think there's one. I don't think that's fair to have to pick one. I think there are a number of people who are very good candidates. I think Governor Dean is a very good candidate. I think General Clark, who's new to the race, is a good candidate. Senator Kerry, who's from here in Massachusetts, is a very good candidate. And if I were picking the top 3, not that the others aren't very good candidates, but I think all those have done well over the last 9 months.
Well, thank you very much. You didn't name the worst one, did you?
Oh, no.
Okay, thank you. John Edwards, Senator from North Carolina. Thank you very much. We're going to... I want to thank former Secretary of Agriculture Dan Glickman, who's director of the Institute of Politics here at Harvard's John F. Kennedy School of Government. Next week, the battle for the White House continues right here at Harvard at the Institute of Politics. Senator John Kerry of Massachusetts will be here. And join me tomorrow night, 7 o'clock Eastern, for more Hardball. Our guests include Senator John McCain. Right now, it's time for the countdown. With Keith Olbermann.